Ooh, welcome to a happy Victory Monday edition of Blue Rush, our New York Giants podcast on the New York Post. And this episode of Blue Rush is presented by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers. Be iconic. Visit your Cadillac showroom today. Those highlights you heard are courtesy of CBS. You heard Big Cat Leonard Williams at the end there talking about a legacy he's trying to build after the Giants win again. That's their seventh win, 7-2. They beat the Texans 24-16. We're here to react to it. I'm the Podfather Jake Brown alongside Giants beat writer for the New York Post. You know him. His name is Paul Schwartz, and our two-time Super Bowl champion kicker, the Scotsman. Cue the bagpipes. That's Lawrence Tynes in the building. Andrew Hartz is along with us. No guest today. Lawrence, will kick it off with you. The Giants win their seventh game, and it's another game where you just don't really look at the team stats because the stats might favor the Texans in this one. But this was the ground and pound show with Saquon Barkley. I think he just ran for the 47th time while we're recording this show. The Giants get it done, and they're 7-2. Again, not pretty, but a win is a win, baby.
It is. It was kind of pretty if you like running the football. It was tough going early for Saquon. I think I looked early. He had 11 carries for maybe 11 yards, something like that, 15 yards. And he popped one, then he got going. But kudos to this coaching staff, man. They kind of know what they have to do every week, and they do it. They execute it. And then, obviously, we'll talk more about the game in detail. But, man, listen, 7-2 is a pretty solid record in this league after 9 games. So Giant fans should be really excited about what's in store for this team moving forward. But, yeah, it was a fun game to watch. You know, I enjoy watching. You know, they have a nice back, too. So it was kind of good to kind of watch the running game.
You know what, Lawrence, I just want to ask you one thing. I was a little confused. How many players on the field at one time for one team?
11.
11? Okay, so if the Giants have 8 offensive linemen on the field at one time, right?
They did,
that means, I'm just trying to figure. So I have 11 minus 8. What is that? 3, 4, 3? 3. So you have 3 other players on the field. One is the quarterback, right? One is Saquon. One is, I don't know if it's a receiver or a tight end. I mean,
and then the quarterback, obviously.
Yeah, this is not what the NFL is supposed to be about, is it? I mean, at times they had 3 jumbo package offensive linemen on the field. It was incredible. And as Saquon said, you know what? They knew we were going to ran it. We ran it. And, you know, it's fun. I like what Daniel Jones said. He was asked, what is it like? What does it look like to sit back there and hand the ball off 42 times? And he said, it was fun. Yeah, it's fun, right? Hand the ball off and get a win.
Well, yeah. I mean, it saves him from getting sacked. It seems like every 10 drop back, he goes back, he gets sacked. But the funny thing I heard today on the TV was 65, 77, and 78 are reporting eligible. I was like, I've never heard that many people reporting eligible. And that was when I counted, and me and my son were watching, 8 linemen, 8 offensive linemen. And they got stuffed for a 2-yard loss, by the way.
First of all, it wasn't like that jumbo package dominated. No. And your friend and mine, if this happened back when you were playing with 69 reporting as eligible, Rich Seubert, and there were 2 other guys eligible, you know, the legend of Rich Seubert would have been a little more difficult. It was always only him eligible, right? Not 2 other guys coming in.
69 eligible.
Yes, but I mean, look, this is not what Brian Daboll was built to do. He is adjusted. This is not what Mike Kafka was built to do. He just came from where, right? Where you live, Kansas City. Yep. They run the ball 42 times in a month, not in one game. So look, you adjust to what you have. I don't think he trusts his receivers, certainly. We'll get into that. I don't think he trusts these guys to pass block 40 times a game. You run it, you play a crappy team, and you win. Fine.
Yeah. And here's what's fun about this game, guys, is, this was a 47 for 191. It was Saquon 35 for 152. But it also featured a little bit of NFL history, at least this season. Daniel Jones with the highest passer rating of any QB in an NFL game at 153.3. Lawrence, efficiency, 13 of 17, 197, 11.6 yards per attempt. And guess what? The Giants may have not made a move at the trade deadline, but they did. They got Isaiah Hodgins, who even contributed with 2 for 41. So while this was the run game and it was built on the run, we still saw a very efficient Daniel Jones throwing once again to a guy like him, a guy like Lawrence Cager, who has the first touchdown. You may have not bet on that in your parlays, but everyone and anyone is contributing to this offense.
There's a cool stat running around the NFL now called adjusted completion percentage over expectancy. It's a big, long acronym. I don't know where to find it, but Daniel Jones is, you mentioned 13 of 17 with 2 drops. Yeah. The first one, I can go 50-50 on that one. Obviously, the second one to Golladay. But he played well. He threw the ball when he had to. He made some big-time throws, converted on third down. They were terrible in the first half, obviously, on third down. Second half, much, much better. They loosened up that Texans defense. Saquon got some chunk plays. But, yeah, happy for Daniel. He keeps making enough plays. He had 2 touchdown passes. They got bailed out again by a call. And then – it's weird, right? How many times they keep getting bailed out by penalties. This game was actually closer than maybe the score indicates, in my opinion.
Daniel, you can only do what you're asked to do. They only asked him to throw it 17 times. And I think I counted, I remember there was one poor pass, right? He threw behind Slayton, who was wide open. I don't know if there's miscommunication there. I just think it was a misfire. It was a fastball that was, high and outside. Okay, that's the one. So, and another thing, this was 7-3 at halftime, and the Giants were doing so many things where you look back and said, bad special teams, kind of dominating on offense, but not scoring after that first drive. There's so many games when the Giants were bad where it was like, well, they had a really good first drive, and then there's nothing after that. And I'm thinking, boy, this is all the sense of this letdown game and things like that. But there was never that turnover, right? Daniel Jones, 6 straight games without an interception. There's always something, and you say, oh, there we go. So when you don't do that, you give yourself a chance. Daniel is just going to be such an interesting guy after this season. It's going to be really hard for them not to part with him. To part with him. It's going to be really hard for them to not say, you're our quarterback going forward. That contract will be fascinating because his numbers are not going to be great. The win total looks great. And, a game like today, he did a tremendous amount without running the ball much, right? Because teams are taking that away from him. You can't be much more efficient than he was today in a game where they were leaning on the run so much. It's always a little something different with Daniel. And this was a less is more kind of game. Very impressive, I think.
And we're seeing that across the New York football landscape. When Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones do not throw the ball a lot, they win football games. Just run the football. And, let's talk about the Slayton play, because that was kind of a whoops. It just happened. It was Daniel almost got sacked. I thought he was going to turn that over. Slayton gets the ball and then missed tackles, and then he just takes it down the sideline. Slayton has stepped up as kind of the number one for this team with, Kenny Golladay not doing much. And that was kind of one of those lucky plays that just ended up working out.
Yeah, that's football. Slayton has kind of just hung in there, kept his mouth shut, kept his head down, and kept working. And, he'll play himself into some money. He's a free agent at the end of the year, another free agent that you're going to have to pay money to if he keeps continuing on this trend. He actually played really well. And obviously we talked about the missed pass that Daniel had. He could have had well over 100 yards today, but Wan'Dale shows up early, then vanishes. I don't know what happens in games. You'd like to see him. He's so, such a nice little piece. I think they just haven't figured out really how to use him. When they shifted him into the backfield in the game and handed the ball off to him and he tried to go, run backwards. And I'd love to see him run routes out of the backfield because there's not a linebacker that can run with him. His short area quickness, he could run kind of some of those cool little angle routes that get open pretty easily. So I'd like to see that. Maybe that's coming. But they're going to have to get creative. Like Paul said, when they have to drop back 25 times, Daniel gets sacked 5 times. And I just, I feel like the edges are okay, but the pressure is all coming from up the middle, and he's still taking too many sacks in my opinion. I don't think with a run game this strong, you should be getting sacked as many times as he does, but they continuously give up sacks. The one at the end of the game was actually a very smart play, right? If he throws it out of bounds, which I was yelling at the TV, and then I said, clock stops. So he keeps the clock moving. I'm okay with that one. But overall, Daniel Jones, what do you say? It's going to be interesting. Like Paul said at the end of the year, what do you do with him? How much money do you give him? You're going to have all kinds of incentives in there and all kinds of cool stuff. But certainly you'd like to see the Giants keep him.
One more thing about the Slayton play, Lawrence, I'll give you props because you mentioned, in the lead into the show about their rookie safety, Jalen Petrie, right?
Yeah.
Who you said was struggling. Now he came flying in and completely missed Slayton on that play.
I know.
And Slayton was really funny because he said, he was asked, what were you thinking, as you're running down the field, down the sideline? And he said, well, I tell everyone that I'm fast. And I'm thinking, well, if I tell everyone I'm fast, they better show I'm fast and not get caught. And he didn't get caught. I mean, he's probably the only Giants player who could have done that. And he did it. And you're right. He's a guy who was buried, and he is risen. I'll tell you that much. He is risen.
Jesus has risen. Slayton has risen. Lawrence, Kenny Golladay,
I tried.
I don't know.
I tried to will him to
You were his
greatness.
cheerleader. What happened?
I had the pom-poms. I even had a 19. No, I don't have a 19 jersey.
Lawrence, I tried to tell you, didn't I? I tried to warn you.
But I didn't know he had lost his hands and all control of his extremities. I mean, I just, man, has he lost every bit of confidence he has. The first one, it was kind of a tough catch. I know, obviously, when you're making that kind of money, you got to lay out and make that catch. The second one was a big chunk play. And man, if he could have got that in his arms and kept running, that could have really done a lot of good for his psyche. But that was just a flat miss of a football. And, that changed the momentum of the game. And then what was interesting is you never saw Kenny Golladay in the second half. Brian Daboll is not playing.
No.
Like, he doesn't care. 2 drops, he basically said, you're done. And then obviously we saw Isaiah Hodgins, who's basically a younger, springier, faster edition of Golladay for 1/75th the price, or whatever.
What Daboll does, which is great, he buries you. But he buries you on the field, but not in the media, right? He was asked, what about Kenny? He said, we just made a decision to play Isaiah. Simple as that. So he doesn't rip Golladay. Now, Golladay, to his credit, faced the music in the locker room. He could have been out of there quick, right? He faced the music. He said the drop was definitely unacceptable. And he said it's just a low moment of his career. I've said all season he's not a bad guy, but he has completely lost it physically. I mean, now on the drop, he clearly got open. So that was mental. It was just mental. It was harder for him to drop that ball than it was for him to catch it.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? I don't think they will bury him. I mean, I think they will give him a chance in practice this week to
against his former team. I mean,
and also, I mean, they don't have much in reserve. So, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I don't see him doing anything big because he's just not physically able. But my God, I mean, that was a shocking drop because it was like I said, it was in
you almost felt like that was the play that was going to get him going, and whatever get him going means 3 catches for 44 yards, whatever. But that's huge for this offense, right? If you add another 40, 50 yard type of receiver to this offense, I mean, they can put up points with that running game, obviously, and then Bellinger maybe coming back here in a few weeks. So that was just unfortunate. And yes, I will wear the clown mask the rest of the week.
You were asking about adding a player to the offense. Is that where I transition to Odell Beckham, or do we just not mention him on today's show?
Sure. Odell Beckham is always news, so we can
I saw a guy playing for the Chiefs today that I thought might be good in the Giants uniform. I saw he scored it. Oh, was that who it was?
He was uncovered.
His first touchdown. Congrats.
He was uncovered, for God's sakes.
He ran a
fake jet sweep. Patrick looked for 6 other guys.
Yeah.
Then he looked to his right and saw Kadarius over there doing waving his arms, and he hopped into the end zone. So
Patrick Mahomes looked to his left and saw 7 guys on Kelsey and said, "Okay, I'll throw to that guy. I'm not sure of his name, but I'll throw to him." Yeah.
Which listen, good for Kadarius. That's fun when you score your first touchdown, and obviously he's in a really good offense right now.
Mm-hmm.
He now has more touchdowns than young Joka has hit rap singles, at least that I've seen hit the charts. Saquon was interesting after the game. We got to talk about this because him and Odell have come up. They've asked him what it would be about Odell. He's like, I don't need to sell it. We know it's OBJ is OBJ. That was a story all week. His narrowed list includes the Giants on it. We'll see. The Cowboys are on there, some other teams. It would make a hell of a story. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but we'll see. He's also not even fully, on the field yet. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen until December. So we're still a couple of weeks from that even being a possibility. But Saquon after the game had some interesting things to say. And I know, Lawrence, you can relate to this in terms of contract talks. And during a bye week, he said that they did talk, nothing happened. He said, I want to be a Giant for life. I've been vocal about that. If the conversation gets brought up again, we'll go from there. Lawrence, what do you think? Saquon, a Giant for life? And tell me about your contract talks during a bye week.
Yeah, I mean, I totally think Saquon should be a Giant for life. What he means to the city, how well he's played. The thing I don't like about in-season negotiations, especially for a player like Saquon, right? Kicking contracts and running back contracts with that kind of money and injury history and all the other things they're going to try to do to knock his number down. 7 days is not enough time to get that even remotely close to the finish line. So then hopefully, and I hope Saquon's agent's a smart guy. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he didn't present a number to Saquon because, these things can get testy. Your ego gets in the way. You don't want to piss anybody off. So mine was very similar in 2012. They wanted to talk. So during the bye week, we talked and it was okay. But obviously I kind of played the rest of the year kind of angry and not angry, but it's just like, man, but that's what teams are supposed to do. They're trying to get you for the cheapest price. You totally get it, but your ego just gets in the way. So I don't like the fact that maybe they did engage in contract negotiations because, like I said, there's no way in hell you're going to get it even remotely close to getting a deal done with Saquon's agent in 1 week. You're just not.
I want to follow up on that because you said you played angry. Do you mean like you felt like you had something to prove the rest of the year, or you were mad at the franchise?
Well, you get mad at the team, right? Because they don't appreciate you, right? That's what they appreciate you with their checkbook. That's pro sports, right? Everyone wants to get paid more or their worth. So when they don't offer you something you feel like you're worth, then you're just like, well, man, this organization doesn't like me. And that's really not the case. They're just trying to get you down for a cheaper number. So and I'm sure, Saquon, obviously, I don't know if he played pissed off today, but he can keep playing like that with 35 carries. So, but I hope they get him done. Obviously that's going to be a complicated deal. Whatever happens at the end of the year.
Look, they talked to a few guys. They talked to Julian Love. Didn't come up with a deal. I don't know if they did Dexter Lawrence. They would have been smart to sign him 2 days ago because every game he plays, his price is going up, isn't it? Now he's signed for next year on the 5th-year option. Saquon's going to be an interesting story. Like if I would have to bet right now, will he be a Giant for life? I would say no. Most guys are not Giants for life. You weren't, Lawrence, right?
No.
Obviously you came to the Giants, but you didn't finish with the Giants.
No.
OC didn't. Tuck didn't. A lot of Super Bowl guys didn't. Strahan did because he was at the end of the line then. Great for him. Tiki did because he retired.
Eli.
Eli's Eli. Yep. I don't know how many years Saquon's going to play. He's only 26. What does this next contract look like? They can franchise him for like $12.5 million next year. He wouldn't be happy with that. It's good money, but it's not what he wants. It's not the guarantee he wants. The beauty of it is it'll play out. It'll play out. Do the Giants finish with 12 wins and win a playoff game? Does Saquon go for 1,500 yards? We're only at the halfway pole of this race, and he's been great. And you know what? I bet you Saquon in his mind is thinking, you know what?
Well,
I'm not going to shortchange myself because as good as I was in the first half, I'm going to be better in the second half. And it's going to cost them even more money.
And Paul, you know what happens when you're on winning teams? Everyone comes to the offseason like this.
Yes.
Their hands out.
I'm one of the reasons that you won 12 games. I'm one of the reasons.
And it's going to be, you just look on the defensive side of the ball. The linebacker 54, what's his name? The Dallas guy, Daniels. No, what the heck's his name? Our middle linebacker,
Jalen Smith.
Sorry, I said Jalen Daniels. Like him, he's going to think he's a part of it. He's on a 1-year deal. There's so many guys, right? The Fabian Moreau's, and there's a lot of, and everyone's going to have their hand out. That's just how pro sports works. If you win 10, 11, 12 games, and that's, depending on what the organization thinks, maybe not always the case. Where do you think they're weakest, Paul? on defense? To me, it's linebacker. Those two middle guys.
Well, look,
Crowder did not play a lot today.
Well, look, Crowder was a guy who played every snap to a guy who doesn't get on the field anymore.
Uh-huh.
You know, they have McFadden playing now, right? And he almost had an interception. They're playing him because they think he does more than he's a little, bigger body, a little quicker. They think maybe not quicker than Crowder. So look, Jalen.
He's more instinctive. I can tell.
Jalen Smith's doing well, but I don't think the Giants are sold on Jalen Smith. I don't think he will be on the team next year.
No.
So, there's a weakness somewhere, and defensive coordinators get paid to kind of mask the weakness. This weakness is in the inside linebacker. No question. They cut Blake Martinez. What did that tell you? They didn't think he could do the job. Now he just retired, for goodness sakes, right?
How about that? Where did that come from?
Man, coming off an injury. He
was a great player like 1-2 years ago.
Yeah. Things change in life, right? He had a kid. You get bounced around the league. You hate moving. You look in your bank account, you've made $40 million. And you ask yourself, do I want to keep thumping people in the face and waking up every Monday sore? He's a sharp guy, went to Stanford, is into the Pokemon cards, I guess, or something weird. But God bless him. I respect it. I think he had 11. I think, Paul, you tweeted this out after an 11 tackle game. He said, here's my cleats. I respect the hell out of guys like that, but man, it's war out there. I know it's hard I was a kicker, but I saw the guys and I see it, like what they do every Sunday as a 44-year-old guy sitting now watching. I'm blown away. I'm blown away by it.
When you don't want to get hit anymore, you can't play. That's all there is to it,
Or you don't want to hit anyone anymore.
Right. Hit or be hit. Look, now, when the Giants got rid of him, it was a mutual thing. There was just
scheme fit. He still thought he could play.
But it was scheme fit, and it was just. I think the Giants sensed something was a little off with Blake. You know what I mean? Now he wasn't the captain anymore. There just was something off. It took him a while to get re-signed. He went to the Raiders. Everyone said that's a good spot with Patrick Graham. Raiders are a good team. Well, the Raiders are not a good team. And Patrick Graham's defense, I think, is the only team in the league that's blown 17-point leads 3 times this year.
They lost to Jeff Saturday.
And lost to, right.
What a story.
A name of the week head coach who, was not a head coach. So, it's amazing, right? As you mentioned it, Jake, not that long ago when we had Blake Martinez on the Blue Rush podcast, you could have said, will Blake Martinez be one of these guys that is a giant? They're going to, he's the face of the team. He's a captain. He's a good looking guy. They're going to get good. He's going to be good. The coaching staff loves him. Gone, now retired. Boy, life comes at you fast, doesn't it, man?
Especially in the NFL.
Yeah.
This guy was a friend of the program. Now he's playing bingo on Tuesday nights with Betty Sue at the old person's home. It's an unbelievable. I hope he has a few Charizard holographics if he's a Pokemon card in his retirement plans. This defense, you mentioned it. You guys talked about the last show that you did on the preview show, on the Blue Rush preview, about Xavier McKinney and the ATV accent. We won't go through all that, but this team kind of rallied around him before the game. You saw him kind of hype the guys up. And then you saw one of his replacements, Dane Belton, first career interception. Another player on this defense to step up, Lawrence. It's next man up mentality in the NFL, and that's kind of been a big story of this Giants season.
Well, it just goes to show you the quality of draft picks that Joe Shane made this year in that pro personnel, college scouting. They picked the right guys. Sure, a lot of them are hurt, but Dane Belton is a kid that just comes in and he runs well. People may not know this, but Xavier McKinney was a 4.6 guy. That's slow, right, Paul? By safety standards in the NFL, that's a slow 40 time. He's got more instincts and maybe takes better angles, but Dane Belton's a 4.4 guy at 205 pounds. And I just thought he'd play well. That's why I told people to pump the brakes, give him a shot here. Now, having said that, he did get bailed out on a holding call because that touchdown right before that play was an unbelievable throw by Davis Mills, first of all. But that was a play that, I said this to my son watching the game. I said, Xavier McKinney gets over there and bats that down or picks it. And he missed it and they scored, and obviously it was negated. And then the very next play, he comes right back at him. So kudos to him for getting his interception. I thought it was a good thing we didn't hear his name a lot today. He wasn't getting torched, and he
had two missed plays, right? I think he missed a tackle badly on was it on Pierce's 44-yard run?
Maybe.
He missed the tackle. He had two negative plays, and you say, well, if McKinney's there, those plays get made.
Sure,
likely.
Yeah.
And
next week will be his. Next week's going to be his ACT.
But
when
then
you see this Lions team,
they can.
That's going to be. Yeah. They can throw it all over the yard. And so you're really going to have to defend the pass. This team was sort of one-dimensional, if you will, with Pierce. So, but listen, he came in and didn't hurt you, right? So that's important.
And he made a really big play. I mean, that was a really big play. Interception. Sure. Stays in bounds. So yeah, I mean, that's what rookies do. They make mistakes, and then if they can make a big play. So, kudos to him. Those safety positions at Iowa, those are really leadership positions. Those guys are hybrid linebackers. They're safeties. The Hawkeye defense, whatever they call them, the Hawk. They're those guys have a lot of responsibility. Belton's a quiet guy, but look, they were confident in him way back in training camp before he got hurt. He was in line to play a lot, so he didn't miss much. He came back. I mean, he's a promising young player. Boy, they got three darn good safeties. They really do. With McKinney being hurt, obviously.
And you guys talked about the key to this game was stopping Dameon Pierce. 17 for 94. You'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sundays, Lawrence.
Hey, real quick on the safeties, Jake, before you move on, we got to shout out Pinnock.
Yeah.
Pinnock had a couple sacks or a sack and a half, whatever they ended up giving him. But he flashed a little bit today, right, as a blitzer. So coverage is not his thing, but certainly around the line of scrimmage. So I thought he had a pretty cool game.
And just look what this coaching staff does, right? We all assume, okay, this is going to be Landon Collins. Right. They
didn't play, did he? He play?
He wasn't active.
Wow.
He's still on a practice squad. He was not they didn't activate him for the game. So, that's a guy who they see. Well, he's a former Pro Bowl safety. Yeah, but not for this coaching staff. And he's playing linebacker for this coaching staff. So, we'll see. I mean, maybe, does he get on the field next week? I don't know. The way the Lions throw the ball, I don't know. Maybe in a hybrid linebacker role in the dime. So, we'll see. But this coaching staff, if you're 2-7, you question everything the coaching staff does, right? Why are they doing? You're 7-2, and you say, okay, I get it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, they buried Darius Slayton early in the season. Oh, but now he's good. They did this with this guy. They do this with this guy. You're 7-2. You hit the right buttons. It's they take this roster and they squeeze it, man. They squeeze it for everything it's got.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the coaching staff. I was looking around my apartment for a cigar. I have, little flames to light, no cigar in honor of Brian Daboll, the cigar guy. He had mentioned that when he, his introductory driving up with the truck, it was an empty briefcase. He's honest. He yells. You saw when the Giants had that false start, I believe it was 4th and 1. Who did he go over, Paul? Yell at?
Jack Anderson. Anderson.
They had the three offensive linemen. Jack Anderson was in the backfield, right? And then he motions up and goes on the line. And Nick Gates was going to play fullback on that play.
Yes.
And he
blow somebody's face mask off. I couldn't wait to see it.
And he jumps.
He did. And I thought right from that point, Paul, the momentum of this game completely changed.
Because then it was a crappy punt after that, right?
Yeah. And the Scottish Hammer is no longer called the Scottish Hammer. He is called the Scottish Punter. Because he was not very good. Now, he had a good punt late in the game, but those first two punts, you don't hit a touchback there. Right. And then the second time you get it again, you don't hit a 14-yarder, and your nickname's the Hammer.
What is he trying to do there? Obviously, the touchback, he didn't, it bounced where, like inside the 5.
But kick it to the 15, right? 12. Right. 8.
So the second one, he's clearly just trying to.
He's trying to baby it. He tried to baby it,
but 14 yards.
Not good.
Not good. No.
Not good. And then another thing on the special teams, while I'm on my high horse here, is the opening freaking kickoff, the pooch kicks. What are we doing, Thomas McGahee? I love you like a brother. I call you every week. I know, but I can still talk about you on our show. What the hell is that? Stop. I need to tell him this week.
Text him right now.
Kicks.
Text him.
No more pooch kicks.
But you know what? That was a good kick, wasn't it? It was to like
great
the 2-yard line to the right side. So,
but they started at the 38-yard line.
Yes, they did. It was bad coverage. Yeah, it was bad coverage.
So I just don't like it. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's windy. And of course, I never know because I'm watching from home. Yeah. And then the next 2 kickoffs, everything Graham hits is 5 yards out of the end zone. How about we do that? I just, oy vey, is that what you say? Is that what you say? Oy vey?
Oy vey is good,
oy vey.
Can you do oy vey with a Scottish accent? Let me hear how that would sound.
No, I can't. My throat hurts. Hey, quick shout out to a fellow Larry, Lawrence Cager, with his first touchdown of his career.
Yeah, that was
shout out
impressive.
to the Larrys.
Former Jet. He's now what? One behind Myrick for touchdowns?
Well, him and Andrew Thomas are tied for career touchdowns.
Hey, look. This coaching staff gets these guys ready to play. You know, I mean,
I like him.
We can joke, but you know, the Giants.
This offense misses Bellinger. You agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is he back next week? We think?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No. I mean, you know, I saw him in the locker room this week. You know, his eye is not all the way back. You know, he's got a steel plate in there. You know, you can't. He's going to wear a visor probably for the rest of his career once he comes back. He said he had some double vision. He can't play until he gets rid of that double vision, you know, and look, the plate's got to, you know, he just was put in. So
the Bellinator. That's why I tweeted out that picture. You know, Mark Bavaro would play, but that's another story.
Well, this is
Mark Bavaro probably back then wouldn't have come out of the game. You know,
right.
He would have put he would have put an eye patch on like a pirate and stayed in the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Pirates.
Hey, real quick. Yeah. He would have looked like a pirate.
Yeah.
You guys know how much it costs a pirate to get his ears pierced?
Is this a dad joke coming?
Yeah, it is. Something pence. 6
pence? No, it's a buccaneer.
That was actually pretty good. I got it.
Pretty good.
That's a good one.
Pretty good. You get it?
That's good. Yeah, it's a good dad joke, Paul. You got to take some notes. That was a good one. What I was talking about is Brian Daboll, because he's the one candidate coach of the year. There's no one else. Robert Saleh's on there. Brian Daboll's coach of the year.
I wouldn't say there's no one else.
Well, but he is at the top of the list, and it's not even remotely close. And he's just like a guy you root for. And even after the game, a cute moment where let's shout out his youngest daughter. Happy birthday to his youngest daughter. He said, what does she want? A win. And she said, give me a football with my name on it, Dad. And for him to shout that out, that just, you know, warms all my heartstrings that he did that. And he's just, he's fun after games. He's honest. He keeps it real. He yells at the guys like he did on the sideline. And it's been working. This is a far cry from the team that kneeled back-to-back times from their own 1 yard line, which didn't work out too well for Josh Allen on Sunday. It is a far cry from that coaching staff. And I know Giants fans, we always talk about culture. We're not going to bring it up again, but it's just, it's a fun coaching staff and an easy one to root for. And they're doing things right there.
He is. And, you know, early in the game, he had the aviators on. He's just cool. Like
that was so cool.
He's just like a cool guy.
Yeah.
And obviously he gets after you like he did with the Jack Anderson guy on a stupid penalty. Those are mental mistakes. You can't have them. And listen, things are going really well. And it's easy to kind of, you know, this team has not hit that patch yet where you're just like kind of in a rough spot, right? They've lost a game here, lost a game there, but only 2. This next, obviously, starting this weekend, I believe, with Detroit, the next 5 weeks are going to determine, you know, their season. In my opinion, it gets really tough. And the Lions are not a layup. They are not the Houston Texans.
No, they're not. I got an email last week. You know, I get all these emails for, you know, betting things and, you know, this analytics. And it was something about, I don't know if you guys saw the sexiest NFL coaches. Okay. Brian Daboll was second.
Oh, yeah. Dave.
I agree. My doppelganger. Yep.
No. I mean, who was from? I'm trying to think who was first. It was not Sean McVay. It was, you know, I'm drawing a blank on who was first. You give me some sexy NFL coaches. It wasn't Robert.
I haven't thought about this.
It was Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury was number 1.
That's accurate. Yeah.
And Daboll was number 2. And I'm thinking,
dad bods are in, Paul. He's chubby. He's the thick tater.
That is not a dad bod. That is
a little bit extra.
It's not a dad bod. He's got, you know, he's a chunky guy, but
he's ready. Let's just say he's ready for winter.
Yeah.
You know what the fans are saying? He's the greatest fat guy since Biggie in New York. And I agree.
That's 7-2, man. at 7-2, that look is sexy. At 2-7,
it looks great.
No good.
Everything looks great.
Everything
when you're
looks
7-2,
right.
man.
Everything looks great. Cigar, aviator glasses. Yep, it all looks great.
So much swag. Yeah. I got tweets that I look like him, and I take it as a compliment, even though he's chubbier. Yeah. I've gotten, similar. He's got a little bit better of a beard, but maybe.
So when we get him on the show, we're going to have to tell him.
I'm going to have to put a headset and Ray-Bans on and like try to get my beard kind of like his, and we'll do a side by side.
He's got a good beard.
We'll close with this. NFC East is interesting now, guys. The Giants are in second place at 7-2. The Cowboys, thanks to Mike McCarthy's ineptitude, not going for a field goal, they lose. They're 6-3. The Eagles will play the Commanders Monday night. They're 8-0. The division is it's up for grabs still. We expect the Eagles to probably win this division. Your New York Giants are the 5 seed right now. Season ended today. They would go to Tampa to face the surging Tom Brady and the Bucks playing over in Munich. How about that? Was a cool little moment. Coming home playing, what are they saying? John Denver.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. That was fun. But this playoff race is very intriguing. Your Giants are the 5 seed right now and in second place, and division is still up for grabs. This is going to be a fun last 8 games, Lawrence.
Yeah, so we'll get to watch the Eagles and Washington Commanders go at it tomorrow. It's a big game. It's never an easy game for either team. So everything, the story is going to be told here in the next 2 months, guys. This conference, this division is tough. And we'll see what the Giants are really made of. I believe in them, though. I believe they can make some noise.
I mean, they're 7-2. It's a great record. And, there's 5 division games left to go. It really guarantees at least, really the rest of the season, unless they completely fall off the face of the earth, are going to be every game we're going to come on and say, this is a really big game. You've already mentioned the Lions, really big game. Oh, then the Thanksgiving at Dallas, really big game.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole season of really big games now. That's what you get when you go 7-2, as opposed to the last 5 years, where at this point there were virtually no big games. So Giant fans should really embrace this, because really the sweetest seasons are the ones that you don't see coming, and nobody saw this coming. So it's great. It's great for Giant fans. It's great to cover. It's great to talk about. It's just, it's a delightful season that we didn't see or anticipate. And until it goes south, it's still going north.
It's the best year of Blue Rush. The ratings are through the roof on the Blue Rush podcast this season. And this Detroit game's big because you looked at the schedule. The Cowboys, a decent Commanders team, the 8-1 Vikings on the schedule. Jeff Saturday's Colts with Matt Ryan at quarterback in the second to last week in the last game at MetLife Stadium. Eagles to close the year. There's some tough games. So beating Detroit and getting to 8-2 is very important before that Thanksgiving game. Well, the Giants are 7-2. Great coaching. Great win. Saquon Barkley, hell of a day. He's going to get the game ball across the board.